Following the Great War, the Treaty of Versailles imposed stringent conditions on Germany, including significant reparations and the controversial war guilt clause. Historical records from the time, including those from the League of Nations archives, indicate these terms contributed to widespread economic instability and resentment within Germany. Analysts suggest this environment fostered a climate ripe for political extremism. Reports from the era highlight a deep sense of national humiliation among the German populace, a sentiment that future leaders would exploit. The global economic downturn, as documented by contemporary financial reports, further exacerbated these tensions across Europe. In Italy, Benito Mussolini capitalized on post-war discontent, leading the National Fascist Party. By October 1922, the March on Rome, though largely symbolic, effectively pressured King Victor Emmanuel III to appoint Mussolini as prime minister. This event, documented by Italian government archives and international press, established a totalitarian regime. Mussolini's rhetoric, recorded in countless speeches, championed nationalism and a rejection of liberal democracy. His consolidation of power, often through violent suppression of opposition, was widely reported by foreign correspondents, marking a significant shift in European political landscape and setting a precedent for authoritarian takeovers. Germany's Weimar Republic struggled under the weight of hyperinflation, with official reports showing currency values plummeting at an astonishing rate. By 1923, $1 exchanged for over 4 trillion German marks. This economic collapse, extensively documented by the Reichsbank, decimated the savings of the middle class and fueled widespread social unrest. Political assassinations and attempted coups, detailed in police records and historical accounts, underscored the fragility of the democratic government. The inability to effectively address the crisis, as noted by international observers, created a vacuum that extremist ideologies began to fill, threatening the very foundations of the young republic. Adolf Hitler, leveraging intense nationalistic and anti-Semitic rhetoric, dramatically expanded the Nazi Party's influence. His autobiographical manifesto, Mein Kampf, outlined his vision for a racially pure Greater German Reich and the acquisition of Lebensraum or living space in Eastern Europe. Public records confirm the Nazi Party's electoral gains throughout the late 1920s and early 1930s, culminating in Hitler's appointment as Chancellor in January 1933. This ascent, widely covered by global media, marked a turning point. Historians note his systematic dismantling of democratic institutions began almost immediately, consolidating absolute power with chilling speed, a process well documented in German parliamentary records. Despite the clear prohibitions of the Treaty of Versailles, Germany under Hitler initiated a covert, then overt, rearmament program. Intelligence reports from Britain and France, later declassified, confirmed the rapid expansion of the German military, the Wehrmacht, from 1933 onwards. The reintroduction of conscription in 1935 directly violated the treaty. In 1936, German troops remilitarized the Rhineland, a demilitarized zone according to the treaty. This move, documented by international observers, met with no significant opposition from Britain or France, a decision analysts now view as a critical failure to halt Nazi aggression in its early stages, emboldening Hitler further. The policy of appeasement, primarily championed by British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and supported by France, aimed to avoid another catastrophic war by conceding to Hitler's demands. Official diplomatic cables from the era indicate a belief that addressing Germany's legitimate grievances and preventing war was paramount. Chamberlain's public statements, widely reported, emphasized the desire for peace above all else, often citing the horrors of World War I. Critics, however, argue that this approach, while seemingly pragmatic, merely emboldened Hitler, reinforcing his perception that the Western powers lacked the will to confront aggression. This strategic choice is now a subject of intense historical debate. In March 1938, Germany annexed Austria in what became known as the Anschluss. Hitler's demands for the incorporation of Austria into the Greater German Reich were met with intense pressure on the Austrian government. Despite initial resistance from Austrian Chancellor Kurt Schuschnigg, German military forces entered Austria on March 12, 1938. Eyewitness accounts and contemporary news reports detail jubilant crowds welcoming German troops in Vienna, while political opponents faced immediate arrest. The lack of international intervention, despite treaty obligations, confirmed to Hitler the effectiveness of his aggressive tactics and the paralysis of the Western democracies. This event was a stark warning. After Austria, Hitler set his sights on the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia with a significant ethnic German population. German propaganda, extensively documented by historical institutes, amplified claims of discrimination against these Germans, fueling irredentist demands for their inclusion in Germany. This territorial claim, though ostensibly about self-determination, masked a deeper strategic objective: dismantling Czechoslovakia, a key ally of France. Diplomatic exchanges from the period reveal intense pressure on the Czechoslovak government, which possessed a modern military and defensive fortifications. The unfolding crisis escalated fears of a general European war, leading to urgent international negotiations. The Munich Agreement, signed on September 30, 1938, by Germany, Italy, Great Britain, and France, ceded the Sudetenland to Germany. Czechoslovakia, excluded from the negotiations, was compelled to accept the terms under threat of German invasion. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain famously declared "peace for our time" upon his return to London, believing he had averted war. Public reaction, documented by newsreel footage, was initially one of relief. However, critics like Winston Churchill, whose speeches were recorded, warned of the futility of appeasement. The agreement, as historical documents now show, failed to secure lasting peace and gravely undermined international law. Just 5 months after the Munich Agreement, Germany brazenly violated its commitments by occupying the remainder of Czechoslovakia in March 1939. German forces marched into Prague, establishing the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia, while Slovakia became a German puppet state. This act, extensively covered by international press and diplomatic reports, proved that Hitler's ambitions extended beyond the self-determination of ethnic Germans. The invasion marked the definitive end of the appeasement policy among Western powers. British Prime Minister Chamberlain publicly acknowledged the betrayal, declaring a shift in policy and guaranteeing Poland's independence, recognizing the immediate threat posed by further German expansion. With Czechoslovakia absorbed, Hitler turned his attention to Poland, demanding the return of the free city of Danzig and access through the Polish corridor to East Prussia. Official German diplomatic notes, later seized, revealed these demands were a pretext for broader territorial conquest. Poland, backed by recent British and French guarantees, refused to concede. Intelligence reports indicated a significant German military buildup along the Polish border. The strategic importance of Danzig, a port city, and the corridor, which separated German territory, made it a critical flashpoint. Both sides understood the escalating tensions were pushing Europe closer to war, a reality confirmed by frantic diplomatic efforts. On August 23, 1939, the world was stunned by the signing of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression treaty between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. This agreement, documented by German and Soviet foreign ministry records, included secret protocols that delineated spheres of influence in Eastern Europe, effectively partitioning Poland, Finland, and the Baltic states between the two powers. The pact removed the threat of a two-front war for Germany, allowing Hitler to focus on Poland without fear of Soviet intervention. For the Soviets, it bought time to prepare for an inevitable conflict. This cynical alliance, detailed in its full deceit years later, directly paved the way for the invasion of Poland. At dawn on September 1, 1939, Germany launched its invasion of Poland, utilizing a new military doctrine known as Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. German forces, detailed in Wehrmacht operational reports, employed rapid mechanized movements, coordinated air support, and overwhelming firepower to quickly break through Polish defenses. The Polish army, despite spirited resistance and acts of extraordinary bravery documented by military historians, was outmatched and outmaneuvered. The speed and brutality of the German advance, extensively captured by German propaganda films and later by Allied intelligence, shocked the world and definitively ignited World War II, marking the end of all pretense of peace in Europe. Following Germany's invasion of Poland, both Great Britain and France issued ultimatums demanding a German withdrawal. As these ultimatums expired without German compliance, formal declarations of war were issued. On September 3, 1939, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain announced Britain's declaration of war. France followed suit hours later. These declarations, broadcast live and documented in parliamentary records, officially marked the beginning of World War II. The hope of containing German aggression through diplomacy had definitively failed. International legal experts confirmed these acts transformed a regional conflict into a global war, compelling numerous Commonwealth nations to join the Allied cause. Despite declarations of war, the Western Front entered a period dubbed the Phony War or Sitzkrieg, sitting war, from September 1939 to May 1940. While naval engagements and aerial skirmishes occurred, particularly in the Atlantic, there were no major land offensives between Allied and German forces. Military records from both sides confirm a period of strategic re-evaluation and build-up rather than direct confrontation. French forces remained behind the Maginot Line, while British expeditionary forces deployed but saw little action. This lull, extensively discussed in contemporary newspapers, created a false sense of security, with many hoping a negotiated peace might still be possible. Amidst the phony war in the West, the Soviet Union launched an invasion of Finland on November 30, 1939, initiating the Winter War. Soviet motives, detailed in Kremlin archives, included territorial concessions for border security and naval bases. Despite overwhelming numerical superiority, the Red Army encountered fierce resistance from Finnish forces, employing innovative guerrilla tactics in the harsh winter conditions. International observers and military analysts were stunned by the Finnish army's effective defense, inflicting heavy casualties on the Soviets. Though Finland ultimately ceded territory in the Moscow Peace Treaty of March 1940, its tenacious stand became a powerful symbol of national defiance. In April 1940, Germany launched Operation Weserübung, invading Denmark and Norway. This swift campaign, detailed in Wehrmacht war diaries, secured vital iron ore shipments from Sweden and established crucial naval and air bases, improving Germany's strategic position in the Atlantic. Denmark capitulated within hours. Norway, despite Allied assistance and tenacious resistance, fell within 2 months. The invasion demonstrated Germany's capacity for coordinated air and sea assaults, effectively ending the phony war and signaling a new, aggressive phase of conflict. Allied intelligence reports confirmed the strategic advantages Germany gained, dramatically altering the balance of power in Northern Europe. On May 10, 1940, Germany initiated its offensive against France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The Wehrmacht, as detailed in military records, bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line by invading through the Ardennes Forest, a region considered impassable for tanks. This unexpected thrust, known as the Sickle Cut, rapidly enveloped Allied forces in Belgium. The speed and effectiveness of this new Blitzkrieg offensive, with coordinated air support by the Luftwaffe, shocked Allied command. Reports from the front lines detailed the collapse of defensive positions and the swift advance of German panzer divisions, threatening to encircle entire armies and paving the way for the fall of France. As German forces rapidly advanced, hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers, primarily British and French, were trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. Facing annihilation, the British launched Operation Dynamo from May 26 to June 4, 1940. Naval records indicate over 900 vessels, including civilian fishing boats and yachts, participated in the desperate evacuation across the English Channel. Despite heavy Luftwaffe attacks, an astonishing 338,000 troops were rescued, a feat famously dubbed the Miracle of Dunkirk. This extraction, widely reported, saved the core of the British Expeditionary Force, though it represented a strategic defeat and confirmed the overwhelming success of the German offensive. After the fall of France, Hitler's attention shifted to Great Britain, planning Operation Sea Lion for an invasion. However, air superiority was deemed essential. From July to October 1940, the Luftwaffe launched a sustained aerial campaign to destroy the Royal Air Force, RAF, in what became known as the Battle of Britain. RAF Fighter Command, heavily outnumbered, engaged in fierce dogfights, employing radar technology and a unified command structure. Official casualty reports show heavy losses on both sides. Ultimately, the RAF's resilience, widely celebrated as the few, prevented Germany from achieving air superiority, forcing Hitler to indefinitely postpone the invasion of Britain, a critical early turning point.